Schwinn IC4 versus Joroto X2. In today's video, we're going to be comparing the Schwinn IC4 that I bought for about $900 on Amazon against the Joroto X2, which I also bought on Amazon, but this one was only $400. Over the course of the next few minutes here, we're going to be diving into these bikes, taking a closer look at the flywheels and the drivetrains and the max resistance and all of the features and components on these bikes. And really what we're going to try to do is answer the question is, why would you pay over double the price for the Schwinn IC4 if you can get the Joroto X4 for half price? I decided to compare these two indoor cycling bikes head to head because they are both popular Peloton alternatives and they also have very similar features. If you're finding value in this video, please give me a thumbs up, and any questions or comments you have, please leave them down in the comment section below this video and I'll do my best to get back to you. Also, I do have links to both of these bikes in the description box below this video, so if you'd like to support this channel and you're planning on buying either one of these bikes, if you buy through the link in the description box, that will help support this channel. Jumping straight into it, over here on the Joroto X2, the handlebars can go forwards and backwards. And over here on the Schwinn IC4, the handlebars also can adjust forwards and backwards. This is a unique feature on these two bikes that I have that none of these other bikes back here, including the Peloton Bike Plus, have. And ultimately what that means for you is you get a better fit on the bike so you can be more comfortable and in the optimal riding position. Another thing both the Schwinn IC4 and the Joroto X2 have in common is they don't have holes you have to click into for raising and lowering the handlebars, so you can fine-tune these with micro adjustments as well. Taking a peek over here at the Schwinn IC4, you can see it has that same diamond shape, square shape seat post, and this has no holes you need to click into. All the other bikes back there, you have to click into a hole so you don't get those fine-tuned micro adjustments. The one exception is the Peloton Bike Plus does not have holes you need to click into. However, this bike costs almost $2,500. And while we're up here in the handlebar area, I'll show you the handlebars on the Joroto X2. Each of these bikes has two water bottle holders, while the Joroto X2 has its water bottle holders up here on the front, which allows you to point the water bottles away from you and they won't get in the way of your knees. However, the downside of this water bottle style holder is this is also meant to be used as a tablet holder. So if you put a tablet on here, it might block your water bottles. Taking a look at the Schwinn IC4 tablet holder up here, the water bottles will not block this tablet. However, the water bottle holders are down here, which also has an option down here for you to hang weights on, which this bike does come with 3-pound weights. However, the downside of these water bottle holders here is if you point them the direction they're supposed to be, they can stick out and hit the knees of tall riders such as myself. Additionally, each of these bikes has a screen up here on the front by the handlebars. This is the screen on the Joroto X2, which I will admit this screen does not really have very useful metrics, but we'll get into that in just a moment. The Schwinn IC4 also comes with a screen that isn't the highest quality, but you know, it does actually give you some pretty useful metrics, and this bike does have Bluetooth, and we'll get more into the metrics that are displayed by this screen in just a moment. I just wanted to give you a peek. As far as the actual hand grips go, I will say I'd prefer slightly the Schwinn IC4s. They are a little bit thicker and nicer to grab onto. Also, it has this flat spot out here on the end, which is kind of nice to, when you're out of the saddle or leaning far forward, putting down a lot of power on the Schwinn IC4. I do think these handlebars are a little bit better. Taking a peek at the handlebars from this angle, you can see that they also kind of flare down a little bit. And looking at it from the side, they do kind of flare up, which is very typical. Popping straight on over here to the Joroto X2, you can see that they also flare up. And they do have very similar hand positions, although not exactly the same. The main difference that you'll feel in these is these handlebars actually have a more narrow diameter, which to my hand, which I'm 6'5", so I have big hands, this is slightly less comfortable. However, these are still nice handlebars. In terms of grip positions, they're basically the same. And coming down here, looking at it from this profile, you can see that the Joroto X2 has more of a flat profile. One other thing I'd like to point out about the handlebars is the Schwinns actually kind of arc in at the top, and in general, you have a more narrow riding stance. Whereas on the Joroto X2, it is just straight out, and in general, these are a more wider spaced handlebar, which isn't really a good thing or a bad thing. It really just depends on your personal preference. We're gonna take a closer look at the flywheels here in just a moment, but for now, this flywheel on the Joroto X2 is listed as a 35-pound flywheel, whereas over here on the Schwinn IC4, this is a 40-pound flywheel. And also you can see that they do have a different shape. This is kind of like a thicker flywheel here, whereas on here, the Schwinn IC4 has a very thin flywheel. Another thing we can see about the Schwinn flywheel is it is very reminiscent of what you see on the $2,500 Peloton Bike Plus. This is what the flywheel looks like on the Peloton Bike Plus. Very reminiscent of the Schwinn IC4. Additionally, you can see on the Peloton Bike Plus, the magnets kind of are like calipers that hug the flywheel. The Schwinn IC4 also uses the same style calipers next to the flywheel. Compared to the Joroto X2, there is simply some magnets stacked on top of the flywheel that you move closer or further away with the resistance knob. We can look at the characteristics and properties of these two flywheels all day long, but at the end of the day, it really only matters what the flywheel actually feels like to ride the bike. So in just a few minutes here, I'm going to hop on each of these bikes back to back and compare and share my thoughts and opinions of the Schwinn IC4 versus the Joroto X2. If you are finding value in this video, please give me a thumbs up, and any questions or comments you have, please leave in the comment section below this video. Also, I do have links to both of these bikes below the video in the description box to where you can buy it on Amazon, which is the same place I bought each of these bikes. And if you do buy through that link in the description box, it will help support this channel. I'm not trying to convince you to buy the Joroto X2 or the Schwinn IC4. I'm just saying, if you're gonna buy it and you wanna buy it on Amazon, if you do click that link in the description box, that will help support this channel, and I would greatly appreciate it. On the Joroto X2, it has a bigger seat than almost every other bike I've compared and reviewed so far. This is a very big, thick, squishy seat. So if that's what you want, the Joroto X2 comes with that. On the other hand, the Schwinn IC4 comes with this style of seat, which is more of a narrow profile and more of a performance-oriented seat, whereas the Joroto seat is more of a relaxed seat. Here in the center of the Schwinn IC4, there is also a cutout hole in the middle. At the end of the day, the saddle is a personal preference thing, so everybody is going to have their own preferred saddle. And another thing that really makes a big difference is how much time have you been on the bike. When you first get on a bike, you might not like the seat simply because your butt isn't broken into the seat yet. But a lot of times after a few weeks of riding, you get used to it and you prefer a harder saddle. Whereas it seems like a lot of times as a beginner, you prefer a bigger, wider, squishier saddle. And of course, on all bikes, you can simply remove the saddle and replace it with any saddle you want, or get some sort of gel cushion to put over top on either bike. In addition, both of these saddles are very adjustable. They have micro adjustments in terms of moving them forwards and backwards. And another thing that both of these bikes have in common is raising and lowering the seat post. There are holes you have to click into. However, on the Joroto X2, I will point out they are spaced a little bit further apart, so you don't get quite the same micro adjustability as on the Schwinn IC4. Over here on the Schwinn IC4, there's the same holes to click into for the seat post adjustment. However, these holes are much closer together, I would say about half the distance. So in terms of getting your seat height to the proper level, you can probably do that a little bit better on the Schwinn IC4, unless it just so happens that these further spaced holes just happen to work out for you perfectly where they are. Ultimately, I would say the best configuration for raising and lowering the seat post is what you have on the Peloton Bike Plus, where there is no holes to click into whatsoever, so you have infinite amount of micro adjustments to get the seat exactly how high you want it. Not really a huge deal, but I figured I'd point it out to you. Here's the knob you use to adjust the seat post on this bike, and also the knobs that you use to adjust the handlebars. Coming on over here to the Schwinn IC4, the knobs are a little bit nicer, however, they are basically the same exact style. They just kind of look a little nicer and feel a little nicer. Very similar seat post adjustment back here. However, the Schwinn IC4s does have a little bit of a nicer touch and nicer look to it, I think. This is the resistance knob for the Schwinn IC4, which is a physical connection down there to the magnet. So yes, this is magnetic resistance on both of these bikes. I do think that the resistance knob is a nicer feel over here on the Schwinn IC4 compared to the resistance knob over here on the Joroto X2. I just paused the camera for a moment to see how many turns it takes to get from 0 to max resistance on this bike, and that comes out to 13 turns on the Joroto X2. On the resistance knob for the Schwinn IC4, it only takes 4 turns to get from 0 to 100, so if the ability to get from one resistance to the other quickly is important to you, the Schwinn IC4 can do that much easier and much quicker. Additionally, the Schwinn IC4 will tell you your resistance level right there in a number from 0 to 100. So if that's important to you, you get that metric here on the Schwinn IC4, whereas on the Joroto X2, you do not get the metrics whatsoever on the screen for resistance. And while we're up here talking about screens, I might as well talk about the screens. On the Joroto X2, you basically get some very, very basic stuff such as time, speed, distance, and calories, which really are not the important metrics in terms of indoor cycling if you want to do indoor cycling classes on, say, the Peloton digital app or Apple Fitness Plus or, iFit, anything. The metrics you really want on these sort of screens is cadence, power, and resistance. On the Schwinn IC4, as I mentioned, you get that resistance, but you also get cadence output up here in RPMs. It's not the most beautiful cadence sensor. As you can see, it's kind of output there in terms of like a little red bar. So you can see it dropped to 0 there, and now it's kind of going up to 50 RPMs. So it gives you your cadence, but it's not like output into a number. Additionally, you can see time, calories, speed, distance, and again, resistance level. And then this also comes with a heart rate monitor. So if you're thinking about getting a heart rate monitor, the Schwinn IC4 actually comes with a heart rate monitor, which I found to be pretty accurate. And in addition, it does hook up to this screen via Bluetooth. So you will have your heart rate output right there. And while we're at it, this is what the weights that come with the Schwinn IC4 look like, and what they look like when you attach them here to the weight holders. Additionally, this is the heart rate monitor that came with the Schwinn IC4. It's an armband heart rate monitor. So you just put it on here and turn it on, press the Bluetooth button there, and now my heart rate is being displayed right there by the pulse on the Schwinn IC4 screen. And based on my previous tests, I found it to be just about exactly as accurate as the Scosche Rhythm Plus, which is a very popular and highly regarded armband heart rate monitor. One area the Joroto X2 definitely saves money on cost is on the pedals. These are some very, very basic cage style pedals, which, as I always say in my videos, the first thing I would do is replace these. I wouldn't even put these on the bike. They do get the job done. I just really dislike them. I don't like the metal cleat things right there, and I don't like the cage style. And you've got to ask yourself, why the heck do they have reflectors on an indoor cycling bike pedal? Over here on the Schwinn IC4, you get a dual-sided pedal. The top here is a cage-style pedal, kind of similar to what's over there on the Joroto, but the other side is a SPD clip-in style pedal, so you can use clip-in shoes, the SPD style clip-in. Which, speaking of pedals, these are the pedals we currently have on our Peloton Bike Plus, the exact same connection as what comes on the Schwinn IC4. I will put a link below the video in the description box to these pedals in case you're interested. And just in case you're not familiar with clipping in, these are some clip-in style shoes. These are Sabrina's Team clip-in shoes, and on the bottom there's this little cleat, and basically it just attaches straight onto there. You can only do it by standing on the pedal. And it works the same exact way over there on the Peloton Bike Plus. So it's super convenient if you want to do a workout on the bike, pedaling, and then also get off and do like an arm or weight workout off the bike. The other style pedals, these are Peloton shoes here with the Delta style clip-in shoe. You really just can't walk on these, and you're not going to be doing any weightlifting in these shoes. However, the SPD style shoes are much more friendly for being able to walk on and lift weights, or just doing anything like going to the grocery or whatever you want. Both of the bikes do come with these little mobility wheels up here on the front. They both get the job done. Neither one are the best, and they both have adjustable feet on the bottom of the bike. The Schwinns are a little bit easier to adjust because they have this little knob right here on the side that you can move them up and down. I have found that the Schwinn IC4 does have a little bit slipperier of feet on the bottom. However, I haven't found the bike moving on me or anything while riding it, but if you don't have it on a mat, you can just kind of pretty easily slide it back and forth, which really isn't even a deal. I figured I'd just mention it. The rubber feet on the Joroto X2 kind of help keep it in place a little better, although, like I said, they don't just slide around on you. Also, the Schwinn IC4 does have a connection that you plug into a standard outlet, so this thing runs off of standard power in your home, whereas the Joroto X2 does not have any plug-in to the wall. It simply has batteries in the back of the screen. And each of the bikes does have an exposed cable running from down in the frame up to the screen. Same exact thing here on the Schwinn IC4, although the Schwinn IC4's does look a little bit nicer, and it tucks into the frame starting here on the fork, whereas the cord doesn't enter the frame until here on this bike. Oh yes, tape measure time. The Schwinn IC4 has a flywheel radius of 9 and a chainstay of 17.5 inches. This is just the measurement from the center of the flywheel to the center of the crank. As I just mentioned the other day, the Joroto also has a 9-inch radius flywheel. However, I should point out the flywheel weight on the Joroto is 35 pounds listed on the Amazon listing, whereas the Schwinn IC4's mass is 40 pounds, so a 5-pound bigger in mass flywheel. Measuring the chainstay of the Joroto X2 from the center of the crank up here to the center of the flywheel is 18 1/4, which I just measured the other day, has not changed. So the chainstay on the Joroto X2 is a little bit longer than the Schwinn IC4. And in general, a longer chainstay is kind of set up for more of a smooth ride. So a lot of times, like touring bikes will have a very long chainstay, whereas a stunt bike will have a short chainstay for like popping wheelies and doing tricks, and quick transfers of power with a shorter chainstay. So in general, you know, a shorter chainstay, you're gonna get a snappier kind of ride, whereas a longer chainstay is a smoother ride. To give you a comparison over here on the Peloton Bike Plus, measuring from the center of the flywheel to the center of the crank, this is about just over 20 inches, maybe 20 inches and 1/4. Center of the flywheel there to center of the crank, right at about 20 1/4 inches. And the Peloton Bike Plus here has the longest chainstay of any of these bikes I have. Also, the Peloton Bike Plus is a very smooth ride. And this video wasn't supposed to really have the Peloton Bike Plus in it too much, but since we're over here, might as well just take a look at the flywheel there and just show you. This flywheel is also a 9-inch flywheel on the Peloton Bike Plus. Taking a look at the style of each of the bikes, I'd say they're both good looking bikes. The Schwinn IC4 is a little bit more of a gunmetal kind of look to it, more of a gray. I think it is a good look. Also, the Joroto X2 is a good looking bike, more of a black, a matte black kind of frame. And the Joroto has a lot more chrome on it, which is kind of more of a retro look. I do like the look of it. Overall, I'd say both are pretty good looking bikes. So now what I'm gonna do is just kind of hop on both bikes and go back and forth between the two and just kind of describe my thoughts and opinions on each of the bikes and what I think of them, what their max resistance is, and what they feel like to actually ride. So the first thing I should point out is I do have both of these bikes on their maximum handlebar height setting as well as maximum seat height setting. And since both of these bikes have the ability to move the handlebars forwards and backwards, it's really easy for me to get the bike in a position to where, you know, the handlebars aren't hitting my knees, where I do kind of have that problem on some of these other bikes where my knees just kind of get a little bit too close to the handlebars. So now I have the handlebars all the way out as far as they go and all the way up as far as they go. And, you know, there's really just, my knees are not gonna hit these handlebars. In addition, I can also bring the handlebars back really close to me and lock them in. And you know, when they're all the way back, then my knees will kind of get up there a little bit closer and touch the handlebars. However, since the handlebars do come back, if you are a shorter person, it will decrease that amount of reach. So if you have a difficult time reaching out to grab the handlebars on some bikes, this does give you that ability to bring them closer. Personally, I kind of prefer to have them kind of in the middle because I don't like to be stretched out and leaned over, especially on an indoor bike when I don't need to be aerodynamic. However, you know, I want them far enough away so when I get out of the saddle, my knees aren't going to hit the handlebars. Also, in case you missed my other videos, my height is 6'5". So, pedaling the Joroto X2 on minimum resistance, you know, it's fine, you know, like, I feel like it's a good minimum resistance. It's where it should be. It's not too light. If I start cranking the resistance up, this bike does have a pretty high maximum resistance. And if you haven't seen my other video, I did give this Joroto X2 a full review where I broke it down and gave it a tail happy score, where I broke down different categories and talked about how I felt about different particular aspects of this bike. So if you are interested in the Joroto X2, you can watch that review after this. So now what I did is I cranked it all the way up to the max resistance, and I'm just going to kind of show you what that feels like for me riding it. This bike doesn't give you any metrics whatsoever, so if you want like cadence, you'll have to put a Wahoo cadence sensor on there, and you're probably just not going to be able to get power on this bike, honestly. So let's get over there on the Schwinn IC4 and see what the IC4 feels like on minimum and maximum resistance. So to make it fair, I'm just going to use the K-style pedals on this bike, and I'm not going to clip in. On this bike, when you get on it, obviously you can hear the screen turns on right away. Right away, my first impression getting on this bike is on minimum resistance, I can feel like I can already notice that this bike has a smoother drivetrain and better like inertia. Like the flywheel just initially feels like a nicer piece of machinery. Which honestly, I mean, this bike costs like 900 bucks and that bike costs 400 bucks. So I would expect this to have a much better drivetrain considering the price jump. So one problem that taller riders kind of generally have on this bike is the water bottle holders. If you have a water bottle in there, as a taller rider, it's going to hit your knees. And I mean, the handlebars are in like a medium position right now, but even if I go ahead and move them all the way forward, so the handlebars are all the way forward now. And you know, the handlebars all the way forward, definitely plenty of knee clearance for a taller person. You know, like I mentioned, I'm 6'5". However, if that water bottle is there, you definitely got to be careful about it. If it's a bigger, longer water bottle, so you know, you might just want to get short water bottles or possibly set it like this and get out of the way. So I put the handlebars back into like a medium position, and you know, I feel comfortable with the handlebars like on this position. For me, they are all the way up, the seat's all the way up. In terms of maximum seat height, I'd say the Schwinn IC4 definitely has a higher maximum seat height. So you can see sitting down here on this, as a person who's 6'5", I wish the seat came up like another inch or two on this bike to get more extension in my knee. So over here on the Schwinn, you can see that, you know, I get a little bit more extension in my knee here. And I feel like, you know, this is like about how I would ride at my height of 6'5". So now I have the resistance on level 0 here on the Schwinn, and I'm just going to kind of crank it up and feel it out and let you know what I think about the drivetrain on the Schwinn IC4 versus the drivetrain on the Joroto X2. First of all, it is really nice that the Schwinn IC4 is only 4 turns to adjust the resistance from 0 up to 100, whereas on the Joroto X2, it's like 13 turns to go from 0 up to max resistance. So, you know, this one's also a lot easier to turn. That one, it's just not as nice of a resistance knob on the Joroto X2. So I'm kind of just cranking along on resistance level 29 right now. I should also point out, even though this scale is 0 to 100 on the Schwinn, it does not equate, and it's not equal to the Peloton Bike Plus, even though they're both 0 to 100. The Peloton Bike Plus has a higher maximum resistance than the Schwinn. So now I'm at about resistance level 80, which is a lot of resistance, honestly. And now I'm at 100, which is really heavy. So yeah, this is heavy resistance. The Schwinn is like basically silent, whereas the Joroto, there is a little bit of noise in the drivetrain. Also on the Schwinn, you can turn up the resistance higher than 100, and it will start to like put a physical brake on and touch the flywheel. I don't know if you should do this necessarily, but like it will like start to apply a physical resistance, and you can hear it. So it's like the magnets will actually bring your max resistance like basically to infinity, or the pedals will stop. So like you can increase the max resistance like beyond 100 for a higher resistance, but it's not quite as smooth because, you know, it goes to like a friction pad, and that might be causing additional wear somehow. Schwinn IC4 definitely has a really high max resistance. To compare it, I just put the resistance, you know, at like 98, 99, and as soon as it hit 100, I stopped adjusting it. So There's no physical connection there. So what I'm going to do for my comparison is just pedal at 50 cadence on this bike and then estimate 50 when I'm on that bike on max resistance, and just see like which one I think is like the stronger one. So after going back and forth between the two bikes a couple times, I actually kind of feel like the Joroto X2 might have a slightly higher amount of max resistance. The Schwinn IC4 does have a good max resistance, but I think that Joroto might actually have it by a little bit. So now I have the resistance on the Joroto X2 at about 25%. You know, it doesn't tell me on the screen what my resistance is, and I'm just kind of feeling, you know, what it feels like and what the inertia feels like. How much energy is being stored in that flywheel? You know, the inertia in the flywheel is a big part of what makes a smooth ride. So if I'm able to stop the flywheel easily or put power changes, my power input changes the speed of the flywheel easily, that affects the ride quality. Okay, so over here on the Schwinn, I have the resistance at about 25, which it shows me on the screen here. Kind of just cranking away. And this bike, the flywheel, the inertia on that flywheel, you know, this flywheel weighs 5 pounds more, and also the weight distribution of the flywheel is probably a little bit different. I can tell this is like a smoother drivetrain. This flywheel definitely has more inertia to it. So like when I try to stop pedaling, I'm at cadence 125. Yeah, 125. If I try to stop pedaling, that flywheel it tries to keep on pulling my momentum through. So ultimately, like what that means is you get a smoother ride. When you're out of the saddle pedaling, it just feels smoother on the Schwinn IC4 compared to the Joroto X2. So which is the better buy? Should you spend $900 on the Schwinn IC4, or should you just save your money and buy the Joroto X2 for $400? The truth is, I really don't have an exact answer for you. I mean, this thing's over twice as much money as the Joroto X2. So I mean, you know, you're getting a little bit more value with the Joroto X2, but I would say you're definitely getting a higher quality bike with the Schwinn IC4. They both have screens on them. I don't really like the screen on the Joroto, and personally, if this was going to be my main bike, I probably wouldn't even use the screen, but you know, it does have some metrics on there. So if you don't plan on doing a course, you know, like the Peloton digital app or something like that, you can get some day-to-day metrics like speed and distance to give you some sort of tracking on what you're doing. The Schwinn IC4 does come with a lot of other benefits. You know, the screen is better. It gives you cadence, which is a very relevant metric. There isn't power output on this bike, but you know, I guess not a huge deal. They're probably all just kind of estimated power outputs anyway. You do get weights with this bike, and you do get that heart rate monitor with this bike. So I mean, if that's some stuff that you're going to want to get in the future, that will cost you some extra money. So I mean, if you do buy the Joroto and you know, then you want to spend some extra money on a heart rate monitor there, like the Scosche, or you know, you want to get the Wahoo cadence sensor so you can get your cadence. The expenses on the Joroto are going to start adding up as you build it out. But honestly, you know, it's a tough call because they are two completely different price points. You could buy two Joroto X2 side by side for the same price and still have an extra $100 in your pocket than the Schwinn IC4. On the other hand, the Schwinn IC4 might end up lasting longer, you know. After all, it does say Schwinn quality right there on the wheel, which I should mention, I really don't have a long-term quality report on either of these bikes. So if you do, please leave your opinion on the long-term quality of either the Joroto or the Schwinn IC4 down in the comment section to share with other people. Both of the bikes do look pretty good. I think I do prefer the look of the Schwinn IC4 a little bit more. I think it just somehow more of a clean, polished look to it. I like the look. You know, I like the flywheel on both these bikes. The Schwinn IC4 definitely just does have a better quality flywheel. It weighs more. It's got that same style as the Peloton Bike Plus. You know, the thin disc, the the magnetic calipers on the side pinching the flywheel, as compared to some of these less expensive bikes have just the stack of magnets there on the top. So, you know, I can definitely feel that the Schwinn IC4 is a nicer feeling ride. Is the Schwinn 4 worth over double the price of the Joroto X2? I don't know the answer to that question, to tell you the truth. I really don't. It's really just going to come down to personal preference on what you want in an indoor cycling bike, but I do hope this video has helped you understand the differences between the two bikes. So if it has and you found value in this video, please give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment in the comment section below. And also, I do have links to both of these bikes in the description box below this video, where you can buy it on Amazon. And if you do buy through the link in the description box down there, that does help support this channel, so I would greatly appreciate it. Again, I'm not trying to convince you to buy either one of these bikes, but if you are going to buy one and you want to support this channel, you can click the link in the description box and that will help support this channel. So anyway, guys, that's my summary of the Joroto X2 versus the Schwinn IC4. I do have a full review of the Joroto X2 where I applied my tail happy score to this bike, and I give you some definitive numbers on different categories in terms of, you know, just go check it out. It's pretty unique. I put a lot of time and effort into developing this scale, and I think it's going to be something that's really beneficial for anybody looking for specific things in different categories in any sort of bike in the upcoming years to come. So anyway, guys, click that like button, leave me a comment in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always. That's all I have for you today, and I'll see you next time.